Welcome to QWERTY Writing Life Podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives. This is May.
And I'm Joy.
For more information about our podcast, monthly newsletter, or author resource series, visit us at QWERTYWritingLife.com. That's QWERTY, spelled QWERTY.
It's the first 6 letters on your keyboard.
So, are you ready? Grab your tea.
Or your coffee, and let's chat.
Hello, everyone. It's another week.
Hello and welcome.
Today, we're going to build on our last episode, How Past Projects Fueled New Creative Works. But this conversation will also be good for considering any next project. So our topic of conversation today is what you need to build on a completed project. But before we chat about that, let's talk about our creative weeks. Joy, what did you do?
So I have, as we record this, it is over the holidays, and I have had a blast participating in my library's Winter Reading Challenge. It's a month-long challenge that is for readers of all ages, including the adults. See, the kids aren't the only ones who get to have all the fun. And they always do this bingo thing. So you have a bingo card, and you complete activities, and some of it is like read for 15 minutes, and there's like, I can't remember, I think there were like 8 of them, because I think it was like a total of 120 minutes or whatever. And then there are things like go to a program at your library, or visit your library and look at the decorations, or make a winter craft, or drink a warm beverage, things like that. And so I have had a lot of fun doing all the activities, most of which were things that I was already doing with my family, or just doing with the season anyway. And so it's just been fun. And then there are gifts, prizes to win and all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, Winter Reading Challenge. Okay. I'm laughing with you, not at you.
I don't know,
because I do this too, like all the time. I'm just happy that I'm not the only one that happens to.
I literally opened my mouth and took a breath, and I don't know what happened.
It's happened to me too.
Okay. Well, that sounds lovely. I love how cool and involved your library is in your community. And yeah, such a great challenge.
Yes, it was wonderful. And the craft part, I will have to say, I stole from the kids section, but they had these little crafts sitting out, and it was to make Harry Potter ornaments, and they were like the houses, and they had Ravenclaw. That's me. And they had a Hufflepuff, which is my husband. So, yes, I totally snagged those today, and he and I are going to sit down and make our ornaments together.
That is going to be great.
Yes.
I hope you didn't steal it from any children. I'm just going to.
I hope not. There weren't any in the general vicinity looking like they wanted them, so.
I'm just joking. You know it.
I hope nobody's listening from the library and they're going to be like, next time I go in there, you're like, you know.
That Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff thing.
Yeah, those were for the children.
We're joking about this, but like Joy has a very, very strong relationship with her librarians, and I'm sure that if it was something that she thought was not kosher, that she would have either consulted a librarian or...
True. Hopefully I won't be on the blacklist, because that would be horrible.
You're going to send them money in the mail now, aren't you? Like anonymous.
Anonymous. I'll take in extra cans of food when they do the food for fines thing. Even though I don't have a fine, I'll just bring in a bag. They're like, oh, but you don't have any fines. Yeah, it's for a thing. Just don't ask questions. Yeah. I feel better now.
Ornaments. I did it. It was me.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that's hilarious. The
way our minds work. Mm-hmm. All right, so I wanted to hear about your creative week.
So Christmas season is really upon us at this point in time. And there are Christmas presents to be wrapped. There are finalizations in the boys' separation of rooms. If you heard the last episode, I am separating the boys from a joint room to separate rooms, they have decided that it is time for privacy. And so finalizations on all of that is happening. I'm just, a little weepy as I'm carrying like bags to the thrift store and stuff for them to for them to get rid of and all that kind of stuff. But it's a good season. I did get to chit chat with one of the people that I went to the writing retreat with in Maryland, and that was such a joy. It was such a joy, and yes, you joy, but it really was. It just lifted my heart by the end of it. I was just like so excited and energetic and everything. And it was lovely to think that these relationships that you build in a week are really sticking together. And I love that so much. And I'm so thankful for people who don't give up on me. I am very, very bad about reaching out and sharing with other people and asking how their day is and all of that kind of stuff, because I feel as if I am a burden, and that it would just be like not necessarily an unwelcome thing, but it would just be like one more thing that they have to deal with and do in order to to fill their day. I don't know. But whenever you have other people who are reaching out to you and they're like, hey, I was just thinking about you, how's your day going, and all of that kind of stuff, like that to me isn't burdensome. So I don't know why I feel like on the reverse side it would be. So anyway, weird, but
We're both like giving like insights into our odd psyches apparently today.
right. And it's like so hectic. And I think at this point in time, I'm a little bit raw too, because it's like getting close to Christmas and everything is just like the clock, you can feel it ticking like every second that goes by. Right. Yeah. And so I'm just feeling like, oh, I'm never going to make it. The presents aren't going to be wrapped. It was a FaceTime talk too. So I got to see her face. And it was so nice. So we talked about her project and we talked about my project, and then we just talked about life, and it was just such a revitalization in the creative spirit, and I enjoyed it very, very much.
Oh, that's wonderful. Those creative chats are some of the best things, I think. And so, yes, I would add that in as like this is your bonus challenge, QWERTY challenge. Like, y'all need to have a creative chat with another creative sometime, because it really does boost your spirits.
Right. So go to a festival, or go to a farmer's market that has crafts, or go to your library, or go somewhere where the creatives live. And
go where the wild creatives are.
Go where your creatives are, and have a cup of coffee and just stand around until somebody talks to you about things, because it is totally worth it. And yes, but I just wanted to share that it was such a in the midst of all of this, and granted, I did put it upon myself to split the boys' room, so it doesn't have to be this busy. It doesn't, I don't have to be this chaotic in my brain, but I felt as if I needed to, because next week, after Christmas, Joy and I are having a digital workshop week. So I don't know, I had to sing it. That was weird.
That was perfect. I love that. That was beautiful.
I'm so excited about that. So we can talk about that in the next episode, I'm sure. Yeah. But we're going to spend 3 half days on Skype talking about our project and really nailing down some stuff. So we have had all of these workshop periods where we've spent between 1 and 4 hours a week, I believe, somewhere around that. Yeah. Dissecting, like reacquainting ourselves with our book, Finders Keepers, A Practical Approach to Find and Keep Your Writing Critique Partner, which is what season 4 is based off of. We are working through a project with you guys, sharing our observations and our discoveries along the way. And now we have done the preliminary preparations for this, and we are ready to make something of it. And it's so exciting.
It is.
And I didn't want all of this stuff to kind of get stuck into the second week there where we were having this workshop. I wanted the next week to be a creative week. And so that's my light at the end of the tunnels, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm wanting to get through this week. so that we can have happy visiting times with family and all of that kind of stuff. And next week it can be just like a creative spirit, joy filled week.
Yay.
That's the goal. So
it's a good goal. I'm looking forward to that too. And I am also looking forward to being able to share with you guys how our workshop goes and any little nuggets that we come up with during that. So I think it's going to be good in so many different ways.
Right. So 3 days of long-term focus on one project with a creative partner. That is going to be interesting. I'm just thrilled.
It's going to be great. So today's episode, we are talking about needs. What do you really need to build on a completed project, or even just to begin a next project, any next project? Okay, so we have come up with 5 needs that we want to share with you guys. And the first one is kind of a two-parter. So the first one is you need to have affection for the past project. So in this, we're talking about specifically if you are coming up with a new project that is built on a past one that you've already got out there, whether it is beginning a series from one book, or maybe it is a different creative medium coming out of something that you've already put out into the world, whatever the case may be. First, you need to have an affection for the past project, because, if you hated it the first time, you're probably not going to like it any better, unless, and here's the caveat to that, maybe your audience is begging for this. So in that case, can you find love for it in order to make money? And that is possible, but it's still something that you need to ask yourself.
Yeah, I definitely think that you need to have, affection for it. And if you can't have affection, I think the next step would be like, you need to have a strong emotion about it. If you search your soul and find like a strong emotion, it's something that's like ho-hum. I don't know if that would be worth my time because my time is so small.
Yeah.
If it's something that you do full time and you have a whole home feeling and your audience is begging for it, then absolutely, if you have the time and you know that it's going to be like low hanging fruit, then you go for it.
Yeah.
But even if you hated it, I'm gonna contradict you just a small amount here, just a smidge. Okay, I'm not going to contradict you. I'm going to say that affection for it at some point in time.
There you go.
We're brainstorming here.
We are literally chatting this out loud with you.
Exactly. Candid chats. But yeah, I think that affection is needed at some point in time, because if you hated the end project, but maybe there is something that's still like you still have fond memories of whenever you first started the project, may change your current view of it. And it's something that you can either do with like merch, or you can do with a spin-off to get you back to that place where you loved the project, you loved the setting, you loved the characters, or you loved the colors, or you loved the technique, or whatever your creative medium is. Like, if you can get back to that place, I would definitely say that would be worth it. Even if you took the audience out of it, it might still be worth it.
And with the audience aspect too, like, it could be that your affection is for the audience. Ooh. And so that's another aspect too. So there has to be some sort of affection going on. Right. There.
So I take back my take back.
Well, no, I think what you added was good. So I don't think you need to take that back. But anyway.
Fair. Okay.
So the second half of this, talking about the affection thing, is you also need to have an affection for the future work as well.
That's a great point. So is what you're coming up with to build upon a past project, or is your new project something that you are going to love or grow to love?
Yeah. And so our example for this, the second part was, for us, speaking from our point of view, if we didn't enjoy graphic design, coming up with merch would be torture. But we both enjoy that. Like, that's something that we like. The same for us, if we didn't enjoy teaching and public speaking, workshops and lectures would be torture, but
this
for
podcast
us,
would be torture.
Yeah, but for us, we enjoy this stuff, so it works, right? We have an affection for not only the topics or the content, but we also have an affection for the medium. And I think that that's important too. So if you loathe graphic design and you hate the idea of having an online shop, well, I mean, that's not where you need to go.
Right. Or if you could take identify the places and things that you hate and find a workaround with that. I think that would be fine too. So if you loathe graphic design, but you love this quote and you really want it on a t-shirt or something like that, then maybe you go to Fiverr or you go to a graphic designer and say, can you do this for me, and work out something there. If you don't want to have an online store connected to your website, then maybe you upload that graphic design piece to Redbubble or Society6 or a store that is already curated for you to where you wouldn't have to do too much. It would be kind of like a low responsibility level there. Whereas Shopify connected to your website is high responsibility level. So
that is true.
So you could find some workarounds there, but I think that the point here is that knowing yourself and knowing what you like and what you don't like, and knowing if it's going to be worth finding a workaround, or you just work on your next project and move forward.
Yeah. So the second need that we came up with was you need either an audience for this new project or a purpose for it. And we'll explain what we mean by that in a minute. So to give you an example, this comes from Any Good Thing. So like I've said before, Any Good Thing began as just simply a standalone novel. It has now turned into a collection of 4 books. So for me, the reason that this came to be was there were a few reasons for it. One was because I fell in love with the characters, so that was kind of part of it, a big part of it. Also, I was prepping for that giant audience that one day I hope to have. I already have a fantastic group of readers who are amazing and who expressed joy with certain characters and certain relationships and things like that. But I also have that little piece in my heart that hopes that one day I'm going to have a much larger audience of people who are going to want these other books, these other stories that have come off of Any Good Thing. So there was that, and that was the audience side of it. And also, I feel like there was a little bit of cutting teeth on this project. And what I mean by that is, Any Good Thing was my debut novel, so it was my first book. So everything was new with it. Learning just how to write, how to edit, how to get to that point of publication, and then learning how to publish. But then further into the collection, it's a novel, it's a novella, it's a short story collection, and it's an epistolary. So I was also letting myself play with developing my abilities in different ways of writing. And that was a lot of fun and important for me. So that was kind of my purpose part of this. And the whole thing was just part of a figuring out who I am as an author, both an author and as a publisher. Because as a self-published author, I have my own publishing company. And so I have those two sides to it. So this gave me a bigger opportunity to figure out who I am in all of those roles with 4 books instead of just the one. So there was a lot of both audience and purpose behind that.
You had your finger on the pulse of the project at the whole time. So yeah, well done there.
Oh, well, thank you.
Joy's a very purposeful person too, and she's very purposeful and she's very practical. And if there's not a reason, or there's nothing frivolous, I think, that you do. There's no time for frivolous.
We got time for that.
So I always strive to be more like Joy in this way.
But have fun too, people.
Of course, but that is there's a purpose for fun, though, right?
Yes, right. I mean, for me, like writing 4 different types of books was fun, man.
Mhm.
Like, I loved that. And
Right.
other people would probably look at me like I have 5 heads, but
Yeah. And that was such a cool thing for me too
Mhm.
to watch, because not only like the first book is a novel, the second book is a novella, the third book is a short story, the fourth book is a epistolary.
Yeah.
The fourth book is an epistolary. So she not only challenged herself into like how to write in the same world for 4 books, but she challenged herself with 4 different types of books that she was going to write. So all of the research and all of the wonder that goes into learning the different strategies and techniques and needs for the different types of books that you are going to be writing and all of this stuff, like it was just amazing to watch, and to watch her do it so well 4 different times is really kind of cool. So, audience and purpose, definitely. So, if she didn't have an audience who was already reading the first novel, if she didn't have the purpose of learning through these projects, they would really just be, I don't know, what would they be, Joy?
I don't know. Well, they wouldn't be, I think, is
Well,
the
not for
thing.
you.
Yeah, well, not for me. That's true, because I have to have those things. I think that, well, because it's 4 books, so 4 times the work, I think you would lose your drive to get them done, without these
Mhm.
things. Like, without either an audience or a purpose, or both, there's, then what's the point? And without a driving force, yeah.
Right, so they really might not be for not just for you, but for anyone else.
Hmm.
There's nothing to get you to the finish line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, like,
thoughtful.
I keep trying to think of like examples, but like anything that you would do, any project that you would do, there's gonna either be an audience or a purpose.
Mhm.
That reason for doing it. And it could simply be that you just had this idea and you wanted to get it out. And that's fine. Like, you don't even, like, if you're a creative who isn't necessarily doing this for the business side of it, like, you still have a reason for painting that painting or writing that book or that story.
Right, even if it's just even if you're just compelled to do it and to finish it. Yeah, I think that would be your reason, right? That would be your purpose, is to get it from the inside out so that it's not plaguing you anymore.
Exactly. Yeah,
Mhm.
I would agree. So there's gonna be something there.
Right, right. Or you're likely not gonna finish it. Unless if you're good at finishing something without an audience or a purpose, would you contact us? Because we wanna know your thoughts.
Yeah, give us this example that we can't come up with.
Yeah,
Please, like,
exactly.
I'm curious now.
I am too. Like, I personally need one or the other or both. So yes, yes, yes. So our next one is that we need to know that you're still moving forward and you're not stuck in the past. Okay. So this is the difference between like your greatest hits album over and over and over again, and then like having your greatest hits album, yes, absolutely, and then moving on to new music. We don't want to get stuck in the past, right? No musical examples there because I don't want to get anybody angry. So but that is the thing, like, if your past project is something that is hugely successful. Joy and I thought about this caveat before we recorded. It's like, there's a caveat here, because if your past project is hugely successful and you are financially secure and or overwhelmingly financially secure because of your past project, then I guess it doesn't really matter what you do or don't do. It doesn't with as far as you're moving forward, but tends to be from Joy and my experience that if you are creative, that if you stop creating, then you tend to lose a little bit of your overall joy in life. Is that fair to
Yes,
say? Okay.
yes, I agree with
So,
that.
um so if you have been in your world, um in your past projects for too long, then we don't want you to stagnate as a creative. And if you have lost some of the joy because you've been creating not the same thing over and over again, because we know that that's a little bit different, right? But if you've lost the joy in staying inside of those past projects and you're ready to move on to something new, then maybe listen to your instincts there and try something new. Even if it's a small thing, you can still do the money makers over here as well. But maybe try a small thing and see if that kind of revives you and your creative spirit. Or maybe you just need to jump in head first into something new and see what happens.
And I think too that there is another way that this might potentially happen for some creatives, and it comes down to fear. So if you, our old friend fear, so if you have some big project and you've done a lot of things building on that project, they could be great, but maybe there's this whole new idea that you just honestly, if you're honest with yourself, you're too afraid to go for something completely new. And that's legitimate. Like that, I totally get that. Like, for example, if you have always written in fantasy worlds and that is, always been your thing, and you kind of feel like it's a comfort zone, like you're confident in your abilities, you're pleased with the stories you've been putting out, but then another story idea comes and maybe it's historical fiction. I mean, that's completely different, right? And maybe that thought is just really terrifying. Like, this is a totally different genre. What if I'm not good at it? I'm having to like completely new audience, new everything. So potentially there's some fear there, which you just need to admit and work through, and understand that you're not the only one who would feel that way. Like that's a common thing amongst creatives. So I don't know, that just popped in my head and I thought that I would toss that out into
Yeah,
the
totally
void.
valid. Look, fear is like, I don't know. I think fear and creativity kind of go hand in hand a lot of times. Maybe not so much when you're younger, but as we grow into adulthood, like that just kind of happens with our insecurities, and as we're learning who we are and how we fit into this world, it just kind of happens. So fear is always something relevant to talk about in creative circles. So never apologize for that. But absolutely, I think that that could totally be it. And then also, if you haven't gotten a creative project completed and you keep going back to it over and over again, so if we're talking about like past things, then maybe listen to our episode on how to drop a creative project. Okay,
Yeah, that's true.
try to move forward there, because maybe you haven't finished it, but you keep going back and you're listening to this episode and you're like, but I haven't finished it. Well, then let's just go back to that episode and see if it's time. If it's not, that's so cool. You keep going. You truck along, my friend. But if it is, let's do it.
Yeah. And another one to go back to, if the fear thing struck a note with you, is definitely go back. It was in the first 5 episodes. I think it was the 5th episode in our very first season. May did her theory of fear, and that is definitely worth a listen. If you haven't listened to it before, and even if you have, like, please revisit that, because that kind of really, you just put fear in such a new light, and I think in terms that can be very helpful for anybody. So.
Right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
And then, so our next need, so our 4th need is you need to know how this fits in your business plan. Okay, so this is the practical side of things that I love so much. Is this going to be financially viable? This new project that you're thinking about doing, like, is this going to bring in the bucks? Or because not everything in the creative world has to do with actually making money. Is it going to benefit in some way? So is it going to bring in more of an audience for you? Is it going to be something that can be somewhat of a gift to your current audience? Is it going to be something that can bring more people to your website, your social media, your, whatever? So you can ask, is it going to further your business in some way, whether it's monetarily or it could be some other way? Or is this going to negatively split your focus? Because you don't want to do that, especially as creatives, especially for those of us who this is not our only thing. We have the day job, we have the kids, we have the this, we have the that, right? So you really can't split your focus too many ways and it not negatively affect you. So that's kind of what we're talking about with this. Does it fit into your business plan?
Right. And this might be something that's completely obvious and not necessarily need to be said out loud, but I don't communicate that way. I say everything out loud.
Which is the best way to do, because we're all about communication, and if you don't
Right.
say things, then anyway, yes.
Yes. So if it's not going to split your focus negatively, and you don't know perhaps how your audience is going to respond to this and if it will make you money, then I think it's really, really important to research how much money it's going to take you to make it,
Mhm.
and to set yourself a budget. And if you do need to cut back on some certain things, then or find workarounds or barter with friends or something
Mhm.
like that, like you already have that in your mind. So you're not surprised at the end of the day whenever something that you thought was a really cool idea and it was going to be this neat addition to this past project, and where it might be, if it cost you $500 and you don't have $500, then it's not a really great addition at this time.
Yeah.
Um,
And that can also be said, the same exact thing that you just said, but instead of money, put in time.
ooh, yes.
Yeah. Because if it's going to take you, 6 months of work and you don't have 6 months of work, like, well, maybe it's not meant to be.
Right. And I do find in the circles and the creative circles that I've been in the past 10 years, however long it's been, however long this has been, I do find that creatives consistently devalue their time, and they don't price their things with time included.
Yeah.
And then we also don't schedule our things with time included occasionally as well. So yeah, put on a big red flag on top of your time and make sure that you don't look over it whenever you're making your plans.
Yeah. Good point. Thank you for sharing
You too.
that.
So finally, this is our last part that we wanted to talk about today. All of these things, even in our last episode, all of the merchandise and the content that we talked about in our last episode, all of these needs, the need for affection, the need for an audience and purpose, the need to make sure that you're moving forward, the financial needs and all of that stuff, all of that doesn't mean anything if what you are considering to put your time, your patience, and your talents and your life into, if it doesn't hold up to your fundamental standards, then there's no reason to do it anyway. So that's a big statement.
Yeah, that is a big statement, but it is a very important one.
Right. So what are your fundamental standards, right? So we have episodes on how to find out what your fundamental standards are. And those are the things, like that's the thing, that it doesn't have to be one sentence. It can be multiple sentences, but it's the guide that you have created for yourself at a specific time in your creative journey. You have sat down and you have outlined the things that you will do and that you won't do, the things that are important to you, the things that aren't. And that's what your fundamental standards are. We'll link to an episode too in our show notes, kind of explaining a small amount of our fundamental standards as we could in an episode. But so this is the statement that you're holding everything, all of your decisions up to, in order to see if they are going to be good for you or not. So it just kind of reminds you of who you are at your core.
Yeah. So basically, is this going to send you further from your goals, or is it going to help you with them? Is it keeping you in line with those things that you say that you value the most and why you're doing this to begin with? Or is it kind of on the opposite side of that? So, yes, very
Right.
important step. Don't skip this one, folks. Don't skip any of them, but like this is key. It really is.
So I know that we said this, we saved this for our last, but we felt like if you heard anything in this episode that if you wanted to end with this one, it might be the last thing that you hear, and so it might be the first thing that comes to mind whenever you think about this episode. It's a little tricky mentally, but we did it.
I think it was a good decision. We're sticking by it anyway.
Yeah, that's what we're doing because it's recorded now, friends.
Exactly. And now it is time for our QWERTY challenge for you guys.
It absolutely is.
So do you have a project that you're considering that deserves your evaluation? So our challenge for you would be to ask these questions about it. 1, how are your affection levels? And remember, we talked about affection for the past project as well as for the future one, or if this is just a brand new project, obviously just for that one. 2nd, what is your audience or your purpose for this project? 3rd, does this warrant future work, or are you maybe stuck in a rut? 4, or fearful. I guess we should throw that in there. Make sure that you're asking those questions, people. Go introspect yourself, as we told y'all a few weeks ago. 4th, how does this fit with your business plan? And 5th, does this project honor your fundamental standards? So those are the questions for you.
Man, those are hard.
They are. They are. So give yourself some time with them. Like, don't try to rush this.
Right. I think this is also a really good episode for the new year too.
Mm-hmm. It really is.
This January now. Everybody's kind of thinking about what's happened in the past and what's fixing to happen in the future. So these are all really, really good to just kind of evaluate life.
Yeah, I agree.
Your creative life. I don't know if they're all good for your personal life, but you should definitely think about your creative life.
Oh, goodness. All right. Well, I hope that you guys have enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed the last one. And I also hope you have a great week.
Yeah. And go make something.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope this episode encouraged you. Like all creatives, we thrive on consumer recommendations. So, please consider leaving us a review and sharing our podcast with your creative friends.
If you'd like to continue this conversation, visit us on our website at QWERTYWritingLife.com or on Instagram at QWERTYWritingLife.